Welcome to Happy Medium, a podcast where artists make art on the spot.
My name is Alyssa Marie, and I am a full-time oil painter and muralist. I moved to St. Pete about 7 years ago from Denver, Colorado, and have been living as a full-time artist since.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so thank you so much for coming in today and painting with us.
Absolutely.
Painting with a painter, which is fun. So you've always been into art. So what does art mean to you?
Oh gosh, what a big question.
Yeah.
Art is the most pure form of expression, I believe, in all forms, whether that's music or painting or, clay, acting, dancing. When you express yourself in art, you are putting your truest self out to the world.
Right.
So that's what art means to me. It's just sharing myself in the biggest way that I possibly can.
Awesome. That's great. And so when did you know you wanted to be an artist? Has it always just been in you?
It has. I have known from a very young age. I think it was probably when I started taking art classes in school, and I kind of stood out with my excitement for it, and my projects were a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I love this.
Yeah.
So from a really, really young age, I loved it. And I remember I have a little book that I did that my parents got me about future goals when I was 7 years old.
Ooh.
And it said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a professional artist. I spelled artist wrong, of course, but I was going to be a professional artist. So I claimed it when I was 7.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like art is it's just innate in some people, and it's nice that you were able to find it at such a young age and just kind of know within yourself, like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what brings me the most joy.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So you said as well, so you started really getting into it when you were a teenager and trying like different disciplines of art. So what was it like pursuing art back when you were still in Colorado and you were a teen and, you couldn't make it your career yet, but you were excited about it?
Right. Really what it looked like was it just filled a lot of my free time. And when I did have the chance to dip into it, specifically in like my classes in school, I would just soak that up. I remember when I would get to art class during those teenage years, I mean, anywhere from, 6th grade up until high school, really.
Yeah.
And I would sit down and I would immediately immerse myself. And so I think that in my moments of designated artistic space, I just made sure that I was as present as possible to really soak it up, because I didn't care as much about math class or about
you just really enjoyed
other
it.
classes, but
Yeah.
I caught myself asking for different artistic mediums for holidays, Christmas presents and birthdays. I would ask for anything. I didn't care what it was, if it was pastels or paints or drawing materials, clay, sewing. It didn't matter. I just wanted to express myself creatively.
Yeah.
I didn't really know. I had no idea that I was going to kind of mold myself into painting specifically at that time.
Right.
But I was just experimenting with everything.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds so fun. I remember for me, high school, like that age was also, I enjoyed art so much. Like I thoroughly enjoyed high school. I know a lot of people
that's
didn't,
amazing.
but I think I enjoyed it because I had such specific art times. Like I always took a pottery class. I was in musical theater. I signed up for guitar class. I took sewing classes, and it would take up like this 3-hour block of the day.
Yeah, and the time goes so fast because you love it so much.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, whatever. The first 4 periods are all my like math and history classes, and then I would have pottery, and then I would go to lunch, which was like fun because I would just play with my friends, and then I'd go to musical theater, and then I'd go to whatever class, and then the last class might be like algebra or whatever it was. But I always had like a 3-hour block of fun every day.
Oh, that's so important.
So I thought high school was so great, and everybody was complaining. I'm like, what do you mean, guys? Like we get to have so much fun. But I was able to do that. So I think it's important for anyone, whether you like art or whatever you enjoy, if there's a way you can really like facilitate it into your day, it makes the other things seem not so bad.
Absolutely. Well, because I think you're dipping into your truest self in that time. And so, the distraction of doing things that aren't really you and aren't called, because someone might say the same thing about math, or someone may, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's when you ask, what is art to you? I really think for artists, it is the purest expression of self. And so that's why you feel so joyful.
Yeah.
And the time is just flowy
and fun and
connected.
Easy.
Yep.
So then you said you tried so many disciplines of art, sewing, clay, painting, different types of painting. What was that like when you decided to go from high school and then deciding what you wanted to study in college?
Ooh, that was really tricky, because I knew right out of high school I wanted to be a fine artist. Mm-hmm. I knew it, but there wasn't a lot of support for that idea in my life at the time. Mm-hmm. And even though my parents were extremely supportive of my artistic pursuits as I was younger, they were hopeful that I would go to college for something that would make me a little more money.
A little more substantial in the art scene.
You know, the starving artist stigma is heavy, it's thick, it very much still exists in people's minds. And so long story short, I ended up choosing a path down graphic design. Mm-hmm. So I went for my bachelor's in communication design with an emphasis on fine art. Okay. And I took as many fine art classes as I possibly could. To anytime I could fill an extra class with like a physical education course or anything at all, it was a fine art class. It was painting or drawing. Yeah. Some I had to take within the communication design, requirements, but I wanted to take advantage of the resources that I had in college. It still wasn't that many classes. I probably, it took me 6 years to graduate. Over my 6 years, I probably only took about 5 fine art classes, maybe 6.
Yeah.
Because so many others were digital design, arts. Computers. Mm-hmm. And so now I will say, even though stepping into a graphic design role for a few years after college didn't end up being my calling, I use my degree every single day to this day, even though I'm a full-time fine artist. Mm-hmm. I use it on the back end of so much that I do now.
Yeah.
But
that's great. Well, then it ended up helping you facilitate what you're working. So it didn't feel like a waste to you.
Oh, completely.
So you were studying graphic arts and you graduated. So what was the change that made you decide, okay, actually I don't want to do this. I want to do fine arts. And then you came to Florida. How did that all occur?
Oh, I'll never forget it. I was working as a graphic designer for a big time mortgage company. Yeah. I had a beautiful suite looking over Denver Tech Center, which is right a little bit south of downtown Denver. Yeah. And it's beautiful. And I would look over an amphitheater called Fiddler's Green. Okay. And it was just stunning. Anybody from Colorado knows this area. It's just beautiful. Yeah. Very high-end area in Cherry Creek. And I'm looking down over this beautiful scene. I have this gorgeous office. I mean, anyone's dream out of college, right?
Yeah.
I had my headphones in at a computer, at a desk. It was so quiet. Even though I had my headphones in, it was like the space was so quiet because I wasn't really doing what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking to myself, this is not me. This is just totally not me.
Yeah.
I can't sit still in this way. Yeah. This is not the right way to be expressing my truest, deepest part of my soul. Mm-hmm. And so that was the moment. I'll never forget it. I was sitting at my computer, fulfilling all the needs, all the graphic design needs for the business cards and the marketing materials that people needed at the time. And I was great at it, and I did like it. I liked what I did. I love text layout and things like that. But I went on, I think Craigslist at the time, or maybe Facebook Marketplace, and I just started looking up home rentals in Florida. And I was like, I'm moving to the water. I have to move to the water. I had a whole part of me that had longed to be by the water for a long
Florida?
time.
Just the water and the...
Totally, yep. I love the mountains too, but I've been a water baby since, same thing as the art. I've had a yearning to be nautical for a long time. And so, then it actually worked out really perfectly because right at the same time that I just happened to be looking at places just kind of for fun, nothing really too serious, my landlord at the time said, I'm going to be selling the condo that you're living in. So you can either buy it or I'm going to put it up for sale. And at the time, and still I think, the market in Littleton, Colorado was so hot.
Yeah.
And so the condo ended up selling in 4 days. And I had 30 days to get out. And so that was like...
You're like, okay, I'm doing it.
Fire under me to just go.
Yeah.
And so I found a place here in Pinellas Park. I'm still there.
Yeah.
And it's a great little house. I love it. And I knew that my trip here, it was a 3-day drive to get here from Colorado. And on that entire drive, half the time I didn't even have music on because that's how loud I was in my head about this new rebranding I was going to be doing of myself.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was complete conviction for that. Like, non-negotiable, I was going to come to Florida and be a full-time fine artist.
Yeah.
And graphic design would help me as I segued into
that. That wasn't your goal when you came here. Yeah.
I just knew it. I knew it. No one knew me here. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know where I was. I had no idea of the art community in St. Pete and Tampa. I had no idea. And so there's something universal manifestation that put me in this place.
Yeah, it feels like everything kind of fell in line for you to make the choice. Like everything was telling you, yeah, you're this is the right idea for you. You should do it.
I just listened. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Were you scared, or you just felt confident that it was the right choice and you need to just keep moving forward with it?
100%.
Yeah.
Looking back, I can't believe I wasn't more scared. I know.
I'm scared hearing it. I'm like, that sounds cool, but I'm like, oh my gosh.
People say that all the time. I don't know. It was that fearless attitude.
Yeah.
And the knowing that I would succeed with it, even though I had no idea at the time. And
I manifested it, really.
I was a very, very preliminary painter. I had such little experience, but I just...
You're like, I'm going to do it.
I don't know. I think when you listen to the deepest part of you that is screaming to be heard, there's gold. There's gold there.
That's awesome. That's scary stuff. But I'm also, it's scary but really exciting that you like listen to your gut, which a lot of people don't listen to their gut. So the fact that you were able to listen to it and just believe that it was going to work out is so cool.
To fit a mold is one of the biggest disservices we can do for ourselves because we're all here as unique individuals with a really, really one-of-a-kind calling.
Yes.
And so when we stifle that, then we fit into these boxes that we're not meant to be in.
Yeah.
So listening can take you far.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Do you think that ability to be able to listen and believe in yourself has helped you in your career over the last 7 to 10 years that you've been here? Like being able to kind of deal with the difficulties of your industry, because it is hard to make it as an artist. So do you feel like your ability to know yourself has helped lend you to do that well?
This is how I'm going to combat that question. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's hard to make it as an artist.
I
think that it is just like any other entrepreneurial endeavor. I just happen to think that due to many, many years of history proving to us that most fine artists don't make a living until they've passed. That has created a stigma now in young ones.
That it's hard to do it.
Exactly. That, I'm not 100 years old, so I'm not going to sell a painting yet. That is so false. And especially now with the help of social media.
Right.
My goodness, you put your mind to it and it's a business just like anything else. And you acquire skill and talent for it just like anything else as you commit to your own growth within that realm. So I don't think it's hard. I think, and that's kind of something that I'm really trying to
instill.
Spread out there is that I want to stuff the starving artist stigma and make it quiet because I don't think that it's true. I really don't. I think that you just keep going.
Yeah.
You just keep doing it. Just like if you wanted to go open a bakery, if you wanted to open a school, if you wanted to start, an organization of any kind, you wouldn't think twice about it.
You just keep at it. Yeah.
And you do the things like if you looked at my paintings starting out versus my paintings now, my goodness, the difference in them. But that was because I really committed to my craft and I took workshops and I took classes and I put myself in the communities that were going to help support me.
Right.
Just like you would for any other, you go to small business meetings, you go to... So that's what I think about that.
It's true. It's true. Because when I think about, I was in acting classes for a really long time. I had a specific teacher. And there was kind of this idea of like, you know, you really got to hurt for your art and you have to sacrifice everything. And I always thought it was so odd when she would say it. I'm like, well, why do I have to be miserable to do this or to put on a good performance? Can't I just like act? Or like, why do I have to give up all these other things I want to do with my life to do this one thing? I could just work hard at this. And, you know, it doesn't have to be this, you know, you have to be like miserable to really give these performances and to really understand. It's like, no, I really just need to like practice, and I need to be good at like putting myself in the shoes of the character and just continuing to put in that work, really. Put in the work for what you want to do, and then you can get there.
Just the consistency,
Yeah, just being consistent, really.
And of course, there's exhausting days, but going back to your original question, without a doubt, the desire to know what I want and chase it and just follow my gut was what kept me going in because, you know, there's some hard times. There's hard years, especially once you enter the full-time realm, because in the beginning I had freelance graphic design jobs on the side that I could always lean on for additional income. Well, I remember when I ended, I was doing part-time nannying and the freelance graphic design jobs right when I moved to Florida, in addition to painting my butt off to try to be a full-time fine artist. And I remember the day that I put in my 2 weeks with the nanny family, and I told my last freelance graphic design client that was the last project I was going to take on for them. Now, you want to talk about terrifying.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
The safety net, not having it. Yeah.
Releasing that little bit of security that I knew I could count on. I knew I still had a consistent money coming in every 2 weeks, and I was completely letting that go. So that was terrifying, and I just kept believing, and those are the times that you have to dig really deep.
Yeah.
And say, no, there is something bigger than me that's in me that is telling me this is gonna work. And you just have to believe that, because it gets hard sometimes when, you know, times are tough and you have a roller coaster, just like any entrepreneur would. And there's ups and downs, and you just got to keep believing and keep going.
Right. So do you feel, because you said earlier that, you know, you had a family who really supported what you were doing and really empowered you in art and were able to give you those opportunities to try different art mediums. What is your advice to those who, you know, maybe don't have that support or don't have as many opportunities, but want to get started and feel like, you know, all the odds are against them to do it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I love that question because it challenges me, because I did have a tremendous amount of support. I would say that if you feel called for art, opportunities will open up in your life if you're open to seeing them.
Yeah.
So whatever circles you're in that do support your yearning to create and to express yourself, even if you don't really know what that looks like I did early on.
Maybe just try it out.
Exactly. Yeah. So if that means your teachers, you're leaning on your teachers, you have friends that love to create music with you, create art with you, you know, and I'm talking school age. You're young, you've got, you know, recess. So even if it's in those little moments, I would say that you just soak that up like I did in my art classes.
Yeah.
Where any chance that you do get, you see what you're really capable of in those moments.
Right.
And so maybe you don't have a supportive home life that's, you know, cultivating and getting you supplies to play with and experiment with. And maybe there's not that level of support around you.
Right.
If there's a deep calling in you, I believe that you're still going to find the windows for opportunity in your day-to-day. And that's going to look a little bit different than the person next to you. And so to not compare would also be a really healthy thing, because that's tricky. If you're comparing yourself to somebody who does have more support, does have more resources.
And you're always going to feel like you're not going to have
Exactly.
enough.
You'll feel inadequate, but it's there if you listen. If you look around, you listen, you stay present. I mean, you can be inspired from so much around you that is free, that is available. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm so inspired by nature itself.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that really lights me up, is wildlife and flora, fauna, and all of that.
Yeah.
That's going to look different for everybody. But if you're really tapped in and you just keep in the back of your head, I love to do this, I love to do this, then you're going to start seeing, it's the law of attraction, right? You're going to start seeing the things around you that speak to that calling. And then you just dig in. When you're there and you feel that moment, you dig in, because then life is going to take you a little bit, going to take you over here and over there. So when you are there, you sink into it.
Right. And if you really allow yourself to immerse, then other people might notice that you're interested in it and give you other opportunities.
That's it.
When you were talking, I was thinking of when I was younger, I used to like make things around my house with what was in my house. Like I loved making stuff with just what I had. Because I started wearing glasses when I was like, I think 8 or 9.
Okay.
And me and my sister had bunk beds, and I had the top bunk bed, and I
So
used to be too lazy. Yeah, I was too lazy to like take my glasses off and put them down somewhere so they wouldn't break in my bed.
Okay.
So I ended up making this like pulley system with a little basket, and somehow I got like a nail into my ceiling, and I would pull it up and put my glasses in it and then lower it down to the floor. And I started doing random stuff like that around my house. And so then my dad was like, oh, she likes this, and like started taking me to the Hobby Lobby and like buying me like those little cars you can build. And that's an example to anyone listening. If you enjoy any form of art or whatever it is you like, just start doing it with what you have. I found a random string in my house and an old basket so I could put my glasses and also the TV remote in there. And so I didn't have to get out of my bed because I was lazy. But in the end, it was innovative. And then people noticed and tried to find other ways for me to do things. So that's, what you said is very true. Like if you put yourself in those situations and you're open to learning new things, then opportunities kind of slowly just start falling out of places that you wouldn't expect.
That's it. That's so it. And what you said about people seeing it from around you and then chiming in and coming in and saying, oh, wow.
Do you want to try this?
Yeah.
Yep. So art is your career. It's what you do. It's what you do to make a living. But it's also how you express yourself as a person. How are you able to balance your art and enjoy it for work, but also still enjoy it for yourself?
Oh, another great question.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's something that so many people told me. It was very difficult when I started out, and I made the claim I was going to be a full-time fine artist, and I started telling people, this is what I'm going to do, way before I was doing it. This is back when I had the nanny job and the graphic design job. My parents were probably terrified for me,
Yeah.
But I knew it, and so many people said to me, don't make it your full-time job because you'll resent it.
Right.
You will despise it. And I didn't know at the time if that was going to be true or not.
Yeah.
And that was scary. So I was like,
this is my favorite thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
No pressure. So this is what I would say to that. I did have years where I lost myself. I lost myself because I would take on so many commissioned painting jobs of subject matter that I probably didn't really want to be doing. Pieces that I knew weren't going to light me up inside, but I took them anyway, mostly for the money, because I was trying to find my way, and I still had bills to pay and rent and, dogs to feed and all that. But along the way, I would have so much resistance because you can feel it inside you when you're doing something you don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
And when you don't feel like doing it and it's the thing you love doing the most, nothing twists you up inside more than that.
Yeah.
And so I would just really listen to even that. So I would listen to the low notes as much as I would listen to the high notes.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, this isn't good. I haven't been myself for a month or 2 months, or I'd never really let it go longer than about 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
And I would say, what needs to switch? And then naturally, I would process of elimination, I would just start to think, how can I be more efficient where I'm making money, but I'm doing something that I really want to be doing? And that would just change things specifically in the way that I worked. It would be, maybe I'm charging a little bit more so that I'm not taking on so many jobs. More people are saying no, but I'm able to get the jobs I really want.
Right.
What if I fine-tune my subject matter? And that's exactly what I did. I said, I'm going to stop taking these commissions and I'm going to start taking nautical subject matter.
Yeah.
And that made me happier. And so these little things of sitting with myself, really listening to myself and listening to, why is it that I feel so much resistance within me right now? And what can I do to make myself feel better? And you always have the answers. Yeah. When you sit with yourself and listen, the answers come right up. If you're too much into talking to everybody and sharing, sometimes it gets overwhelming and you don't even know what's right from left anymore.
Yeah.
But when you just relax and breathe and step away and look at it all like it's in a bubble and it's detached from you, that's when you say, oh, that's not working and that does work. And maybe if I do a little more of that and a little less of that, I'll feel a little better.
Right.
And then sure enough, you do. And then now, I mean, some inspiration at the end of that. Now I am only doing passion jobs.
Yeah.
Every single job that I do is a passion piece.
Yeah.
Whether that's an oil painting, a mural, it doesn't matter. My involvement with the community, because I cared so much about keeping it to things I loved. But you have to go back to that, because you'll see artists that will fall into a little bit of a trap of doing things that make the money, but they're not necessarily passionate about it. And I was relentless. And maybe that meant that I had some months that were a lot tighter on money because I did more passion pieces that month that weren't selling right away and taking on less commissions, which made a lot of money for me at the time in those beginning years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but that's what I would say. Just keep listening. And when it feels really low and real yuck, listen to that. Feel into that and let that guide you to what feels better.
I think that's a great answer, and it's good for, everyone. It really doesn't matter how old you are to really sit back, and it's not selfish to try and prioritize what you enjoy, which is, I think, something we all kind of struggle with. Like, I don't want to be like only thinking about myself in all situations, but in order to kind of bring out your best self, sometimes you do need to like step back and really assess what you actually enjoy and then go after those things and not just do things because you think that's what makes sense for you, you know?
That is huge, especially for creatives who tend to be natural empaths.
Right. You're always giving a little too much.
Yeah, you care. You feel big. You feel a lot. Our emotions are like, sometimes they're just so out there.
It's hard. It's hard out here. So my last question is for you is, who is Alyssa today?
Ooh, Alyssa today is the most authentic Alyssa that's ever been, that I knew I was capable of being when I was, 10 years old, doodling hibiscus flowers and dolphins, living in the mountains, on my notebooks. And the part of you that knows that your the brightest part of you is possible.
Yeah.
And it can be that way consistently all the time, spreading that just onto everybody you meet. That's the Alyssa today. So she's just a thriving, buzzing, full-time fine artist.
Yay! We love it. So happy that's happening for you.
Oh, thank you.
Continuing to happen. Well, thank you for being here. This has been so great. Is there anything else you want to add that I didn't ask?
I don't think so. I think I hit on those were fantastic questions.
Thank you. I'm excited. Okay, we're done. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Happy Medium. You can find more info about the guests and other episodes in the show notes or go to our website, artsaccessflorida.org. Thank you to our sponsors, Community Foundation Tampa Bay, building a vibrant, prosperous community through transformative vision, leadership, and philanthropy at cftampabay.org, and the Gobioff Foundation, supporting human rights organizations and the Tampa, Florida arts community at gobioff-foundation.org. Lastly, thank you to PRX for consulting on this podcast, the Arts Access Florida team, and the Florida Department of State, Divisions of Arts and Culture, for making these episodes possible. Copyright 2023, WUSF Public Media.